Okay, let's wrap up this chapter by talking about a segue between the brain and our special senses, which is chapter 17. So we're going to focus on sensory information. Now, there are two types of sensory input that our body has. We have general senses, which are things like touch, pain, temperature, vibration. And then we have special senses, which is chapter 17, which are things like eyes, ears, nose, those special senses. These are called modalities. All right. So let's just get into here and we'll wrap up this chapter and get you on your way to chapter 17. So general senses include somatic and visceral senses. So information about the conditions within our internal organs, as well as our skin. So touch, pain, temperature, vibration. Special senses are smell, taste, vision, hearing, and then equilibrium with balance in the ear. All right. So it says generally a sensory neuron can only be one of these things. Can only respond to one type of stimulus. So if I am a touch receptor, I'm only a touch receptor. If I am a rod or cone in my vision, I'm only going to pick up vision. All right, so general senses are generally sensed with free nerve endings. So the sensory nerves are free nerve endings. These are bare dendrites that are embedded in the dermis of our skin, and they're going to pick up things like pain, temperature, tickle, itch, and light touch. So our skin receptors, these general receptors, there's a fine line between, pain and temperature. And so we get the same sensations, tickle, itch, and light touch. These are all free nerve endings. So things that cause you pain, you cut your finger, the hot sun on your back, that's temperature. Something is crawling on you, it may cause a tickle, light touch, or an itch as something brushes up against you. Those are all done with these free nerve endings with bare dendrites that are then sending signals up to your brain. Then we also have encapsulated nerve endings. These have a little protective capsule, and it says the dendrites are enclosed in connective tissue. These are going to be different sensations, things like pressure, vibration, and deep touch, like something's pushing against you. It's not light touch like a bug crawling on you. It's like you're leaning up against a table. That's deep touch. So these are going to be sent through encapsulated nerve endings that then go up to your brain. So two different types of general sense nerves, encapsulated and free. Our special senses are highly adapted. This is all chapter 17 stuff, but they're specialized cells that respond to light or to chemicals or to sound. All right. And we'll talk about those in chapter 17. Now, there is a difference in your sensory input between sensation and perception. So it says perception is the conscious awareness and then interpretation of a sense. We all experience the same sensations. It's our perceptions that are different. So a sensation is any stimuli the body is aware of. So like you may be exposed to a smell that's a chemoreceptor or a temperature that's a thermoreceptor. These are going to be the same senses for everybody. So let's say we're all in our lab or our lecture room. Let's say we're all in 131 lecture and we're all talking and someone opens a perfume bottle. We are all subjected to that same sense. That same chemical is being picked up by chemoreceptors in all of our noses and we're smelling that perfume. Maybe the room is hot and so we're all subject to the same thermoreceptors. Now, perception is how we feel about the sense. All right. So if some of you might love that perfume. That's your perception. Some of you might hate that perfume. That's your perception. Some of you may think that the temperature in the room is too hot. That's a perception. Some of you might feel that it's just perfect. That's your perception. So even though we're all experiencing the same sense, we are perceiving it differently. Now, there's plenty of things that we are not aware of that are all around us, but we don't have a sensation that can pick that up. So without a sensation, we have no perception. So there's no perception of things like X-rays, high-frequency sound waves, ultraviolet light. We have no receptors of any kind that pick that stuff up. So we can't perceive it. All right. As far as some general senses go, we've got two types of touch. Crude touch is just knowing that something is touching you. It's not like inappropriate touch. You don't have to hashtag me too for crude touch. That's not what that means. Crude touch just means that you have an awareness that something is touching you. Maybe you're up against a wall and you just know that something is touching you. Discriminative touch is being able to discern different textures, different objects. So you can have discriminative touch about the location. Where is it touching you? The shape of the object, the size of the object, the texture. So if I blindfold you and hand you an apple and an orange, you can tell one from the other because you know the texture of an orange is more rough and bumpy than the smooth apple. Something like that is discriminative touch. With pressure, vibration, tickle, and itch, these are all these encapsulated nerve endings, right? So pressure is felt over a large area of the body. And we have pressure sensations that stimulate tactile receptors that stimulate this perception. Now, with pressure sensations, it's a deeper tissue that's affected, so it's longer lasting. This is why you can have, like, a good example would be like, let's say you have a helmet on your head and the helmet's like pushing on your skin and it's causing the deeper tissue to get pressure sensations. When you take that helmet off, you may feel like you still have it on. That's because those sensory neurons are still firing, so they're longer lasting than other types of sensory perception. With vibration, it says we have rapidly repetitive sensory signals. Our vibration sensory neurons can pick up low frequency, high frequency vibrations and transmit it to the brain. With tickle and itch, these involve free nerve endings that are going to, we have some kind of outside stimuli that cause these free nerve endings to respond, and you might feel an urge to itch, or it might tickle. It says tickle is the only sensation that we have that you cannot elicit on yourself. Just try it. You cannot tickle yourself. I hate being tickled personally. It just pisses me off. I want to punch the person who's tickling me. It doesn't make me laugh. It doesn't make me feel happy. It pisses me off. So I hate being tickled, and I can't tickle myself. So I guess I can't piss myself off, huh? All right. All right. Thermal sensations, temperature. This is interesting because this is free nerve endings. And it says we have our free nerve endings are going to pick up thermal sensations at different temperatures. So it says cold receptors are located in a part of our skin called the stratum basale. You don't need to worry about this until next semester with A&P 2, where that is, but it's part of your skin. It says it's going to be invoked between temperatures of 50 to 105 degrees Fahrenheit. All right. Warm receptors are in the dermis of our skin, and they respond to temperatures between 90 and 118 degrees. So it says both adapt very rapidly at first and then continue to generate low frequency impulses. This is why, like, let's say you go outside, You walk outside and it's 20 degrees outside. 20 degrees is going to invoke these cold receptors, and they fire very rapidly at first, telling you that it's cold outside. You're like, man, it's cold outside. But let's say you have to walk a couple blocks to where you're going. As you continue to be in that cold environment, your cold receptors adapt and they start firing action potentials at a lower frequency. So in other words, you get used to the cold. It's like jumping into a cold swimming pool. At first, you're freaking out because you've got these cold receptors adapting really fast, but then over time, you feel like the pool's warming up. The pool's not warming up. Your cold receptors are just getting used to it, and they're firing at a lower frequency than they did when you first were exposed to that. So that makes it more tolerable for you. Same with warm receptors. If you jump into a hot shower, at first you're like, oh my God, it's too hot. But then if you stay in there for a few minutes, you will have impulses generating at a slower frequency. And so then you will get used to it. Pretty cool. It says pain with temperature is produced with anything below 50 degrees. So you'll feel some pain. If you stick your hand in ice water that's below 50 degrees, it'll be painful. And then anything over 118 degrees Fahrenheit will cause pain in the other direction with heat. All right, now we have two types of pain. We have fast pain or acute pain. That is something that is going to be stimulated very quickly. So it says you get a sharp pain from like a puncture from a needle, or you cut yourself with a knife. This is acute pain. All right, this involves the large nerve fibers that we talked about way back in chapter 12, firing up towards your brain to get you out of that painful situation. So this might invoke some kind of a reflex. Chronic pain or slow pain is going to begin slowly, and then it increases and gets worse and worse and worse. A great example of this is a toothache. A toothache, it's not acute pain. It's not like something that happens really fast that you deal with. It's a slow rising pain. And so it just gets worse and worse and worse until you decide, I've got to go to the dentist. This involves smaller C-size nerves. So there's two types of pain. All right. We also have somatic pain, which is somatic pain is superficial. So it's like a muscle or a joint ache. You know, you overdo it at the gym, you have some muscle pain, you're really sore. Maybe you sprain your ankle and you pulled some tendons. That is superficial somatic pain. Then we have visceral pain. Visceral pain is involving visceral receptors that are involving your organs. Remember, the word visceral means organ. So you have organ pain, like an appendicitis. An appendicitis is visceral pain. Or if you have a stomach ache, that could be visceral pain. Now, what's interesting is your organs themselves do not have sensory receptors. It's the tissue around them. So like if you're having an appendicitis, the reason why it hurts is the appendix is swelling up, and it's putting pressure on surrounding tissue that has the visceral receptors. You could actually go in and touch an organ and you can't feel it because they don't have sensory receptors. It's the tissue around those organs that have that. So it says local damage, like cutting the intestines, actually causes no pain, but cutting the visceral tissue around the intestines can cause severe pain. So as something like, let's say you've got gallstones, the bile duct distends and pushes on those visceral receptors, that causes the pain. Kidney stone, as the ureter distends, it pushes against the other tissue surrounding the ureter, and it causes all the pain. All right. We also can have a phenomenon known as referred pain, which is pain felt in an area far from where the pain is originating. This is a good example of this is a heart attack. A lot of people have a pain that radiates down their left arm during a heart attack, that is referred pain. The arm is not under any pain at all. It's the heart that's stressed. So you feel that pain some distance away from the actual organ that's stimulating the pain receptors. That's called referred pain. Okay. Proprioception is the awareness of your body. So where your body is and how it's moving is proprioception. So your awareness of where your body is allows you to do a lot of things like walking without looking at something or typing without looking at your fingers. You just know where your body is. You can estimate the weight of objects. Proprioceptors don't really adapt. They adapt very slightly over time. And they send sensory information to your cerebellum for balance and then your cerebral cortex. So it says signals from our muscles, tendons, joint capsules, hair, all can give us proprioception. And some of those reflexes like the Golgi tendon reflex, joint receptors, all send information to our brain about proprioception. Hey, we're done with this chapter. Woohoo. It's time to celebrate. This was a long chapter. I'm glad to get it over with. I'll be posting this stuff and you'll be all set. So next we'll get into chapter 17, which is going to be our special senses: eye, ear, taste, smell, those special senses that we all have. All right. Catch you in the next chapter.